Hello, and welcome to our very first Tippecanoe Out of the Darkness experience. I am Jenna Scott, your 2020 co-chair. I first want to say thank you for joining us today. This is my sixth Out of the Darkness walk, and one of the reasons that we choose to work with American Foundation for Suicide Prevention is they have a very clear mission to reduce the national suicide rate 20% by 2025. I want to thank everyone for registering and fundraising for our 2020 Tippecanoe County Out of the Darkness
Hi, I'm
walk.
Mike Lama, Senior Vice President for Development and Field Management for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I'd like to thank you for participating in the Out of the Darkness experience. While we can't be together in person, we can still come together as a community to raise awareness about suicide, support each other, and allow the work of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention to continue. I'd like to thank our hardworking volunteers and staff for making the experience possible, and thank our chapters for all the work they do every day to prevent suicide. And while the pandemic has impacted us just like it has the rest of the world, we have continued our life-saving work, which is needed now more than ever. We've invested $20 million in current research studies, making us the largest private funder of research in the United States. Through our army of 25,000 volunteer field advocates, we've helped pass over 50 state laws and 13 major federal policies, including leading the efforts to establish 988 as a three-digit number for people in crisis. During the pandemic, our chapters have shifted to delivering programs virtually, making programs available to thousands of people in all 50 states, including our new program, Enhancing Mental Health During COVID-19. We've continued delivering our critical loss and healing programs to those who've lost someone to suicide. And we've continued working toward our bold goal of reducing the suicide rate by 20% by the year 2025 through our innovative Project 2025. But none of this would have been possible without you. Through the support of thousands like you nationwide, we were able to continue our life-saving work. With the onset of the pandemic, our work is needed now more than ever. We know that there is a possibility of an increased risk for suicide, but we also know an increase is not a foregone conclusion. If we act now and continue delivering our programs, we can mitigate that risk. Thank you once again for your participation and support. Together we can and we will keep going to prevent suicide and save lives.
I hope you are all taking care of yourselves, checking in with family and friends, and finding ways to stay active during this time. If you or someone you know is struggling, please remember these numbers and add them to your phones. 1-800-273-8255 and 741-741. I would also like to thank our sponsors, Powell Heating and Cooling, Knopp Family Dentistry, and Jefferson High School.
Christine Moutier, Chief Medical Officer at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. It's really my pleasure to take this opportunity to thank you for being involved and participating in the Out of the Darkness experience. Even though we can't be together in person, we can come together to raise awareness about suicide and suicide prevention and to support each other and the mission at AFSP. Thank you to our hardworking volunteers and staff for supporting the Out of the Darkness experience. Without their tireless efforts, we could not continue the life-saving work in suicide prevention that we do at AFSP. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about what has been going on at AFSP related to our work and the mission. This past year, we have funded 38 new suicide prevention research studies, and that brings our total current investment to $20 million, funding 100 ongoing current research studies in suicide prevention, making us the largest private funder of suicide prevention research. Through our 30,000 plus voluntary field advocates, we are leading the way in mental health and suicide prevention advocacy at the federal and state level, with over 50 state laws and 13 major federal policies being enacted into legislation just in the last several years alone. And most recently, AFSP has played a role in leading the establishment of the 988 three-digit number for people in crisis. We are truly a grassroots meets science organization with a long-standing dedication to those who have lost loved ones to suicide, and now people with lived experience as well. But on the Saturday before Thanksgiving each year, many of you know that AFSP supports hundreds of large and small international Survivors of Suicide Loss Day events. And in 2019, there were 417 of those events in 26 countries around the world. And this November, we hope to see the same, even through virtual means of coming together. We are also working at AFSP in collaboration with the media and entertainment industry to shine a light on hopefulness in mental health and ways that we can support people who are struggling long before a suicidal crisis is reached. So by working with these content creators, we can make sure that stories that are being developed now for media and entertainment are drawing on the best research in terms of the difference that family members, mental health professionals, teachers, counselors, that we can all make, and that hope and resilience are in fact possible, and not only possible, but that we can make a difference in that way for suicide prevention. So none of that would be possible without your support. And we thank you again for joining in the Out of the Darkness experience, joining with us to prevent suicide. With all of us working together, we can and we will prevent suicide. Thank you so much.
We would now like to do our bead ceremony. What's your color? Losing someone to suicide or struggling with a mental illness can feel like no one understands what you are going through. Each color shows our personal connection to the cause and helps us identify others who understand our experience. White, the loss of a child. Orange, the loss of a sibling. Green, a personal struggle or attempt. Red, loss of a spouse or partner. Purple, the loss of a relative or friend. Teal, for supporting someone who struggles or has attempted. Gold, for the loss of a parent. Silver, for the loss of a first responder or military. And blue, for supporting suicide prevention. By joining in today, you are sending the message that our cause of suicide prevention will never be canceled, because it can't be. We cannot let another day go by without showing that mental health as real as physical health. You are showing others that suicide, which is currently the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S., can no longer be ignored. Suicide is a health issue that affects us all. You are part of a national movement, and today, you are also showing that we do not need to be together in person to raise our voices to prevent suicide. Thank you again for joining in today and supporting the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention and our first Tippecanoe County Out of the Darkness experience. Our mission to save lives and bring hope to those affected by suicide would not be possible without you. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Renew. This is my wife Carlene. This picture I'm holding is my handsome young son Landon. Passed away at 17. Landon was a happy-go-lucky kid growing up. We thought everything was perfect. As he got older, he enjoyed playing video games, boating with his friends, inner tubing, just enjoying life. As he got older, he was on the varsity team, played football with his brother, enjoyed basketball, played baseball from minor league all the way up through little league. And when he was younger, he played soccer even. So the funny thing was that he wasn't too much in there. He was fast. So he wouldn't go in there and fight for the ball, but he'd wait till they kicked the ball out. Then he'd run and take off with it and score. So it's just funny to watch him. But he was enjoying it. So he had an endless appetite. Every time he turned around, I could hear kitchen cabinets closing and shutting, closing and shutting. I'm hungry. Loved steak. Oh man, that's the only thing he would love to eat was steak. He'd knock a whole steak out. He loved hanging out with his friends, and all of his buddies would say, "Oh, Landon was always checking out the chicks and enjoying that." So, but he is sadly missed.
Landon was smart, funny, kind, caring, outgoing, protective of those he loved. He often put the feelings of others before his own. He wanted his friends and family to be happy, and he loved deeply. We have so many wonderful memories of Landon that we could share, but what always makes us smile and laugh are the songs that Landon used to love to sing, and the times he'd turn up the music loud, and he'd sing as loud as he could just to annoy his dad. And he'd laugh and laugh, causing us to laugh with him, especially when he'd sing the Firefly song by Owl City. A silly, and some would say stupid song, but Landon loved it. His dad hated it, but Landon loved it. In 2013, Landon was having trouble sleeping, had lost interest in activities outside the home, was scared to sleep alone at night, and felt like he was unloved, no one cared about him, and he began having anxiety and panic attacks that would take him twice by ambulance to the emergency room. He was depressed, and this was toppled by the devastating news that my father was dying of terminal cancer. At the advice of our family physician, we saw a specialist who in March of 2014 diagnosed Landon with bipolar disorder with the onset of schizophrenia. We didn't have time to process this news, and Landon didn't understand what was going on within him. And 3 months later, on June 14 of 2014, Landon, at the tender age of 17, took his own life. Losing our son has been extremely difficult, devastating, and would change us and our lives in a way we never imagined. But with the love, support, and prayers from family and friends, we have learned to take each day one step at a time and have adjusted to the new normal our lives have become. And we have slowly learned it's okay to laugh, smile, and live without our precious son. And we know through our faith we will see him and his beautiful smile again one day. For God knew Landon, and he knew Landon's heart, and he is now pain-free, finally at peace, and welcomed into his loving and forgiving arms. And this has given us comfort. Shortly after Landon passed, we were introduced to an amazing couple who also lost their son to suicide, and who were further along in their grief journey. They've shown us love, compassion, understanding, and have offered us support and a shoulder to cry on. They introduced us to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and this is our 8th Out of the Darkness Walk in Indiana. We choose to support the AFSP because of the wonderful individuals we have met in the past 6 years, who work tirelessly to raise support, fund research, advocate, educate, and offer support to suicide survivors. They offer hope, healing, understanding, patience, and kindness, and are working so hard to reduce the rate of suicide, for they too have experienced the loss of suicide. We walk in honor and remembrance of our son. For those who struggle with depression, bipolar disorder, and mental illness. For suicide survivors like us, and in memory of their loved ones, and to give hope, encouragement, and to let you know you are not alone in your journey, and that we will survive our tragic losses, one day and one step at a time. There is hope, there is healing, there is our faith, and you will learn to live, love, laugh, and smile again, and even experience joy, while still honoring and remembering the love you still carry for your precious loved one as you travel your individual and personal journey of grief. Your loved one's story will go on through you. Thank you for letting us share our family's personal journey and that of our son Landon with you. He is loved and he is missed, but his light will continue to shine through us and those who knew and loved him. Thank you.
Once again, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who donated, participated, or sponsored our 2020 Tippecanoe County Out of the Darkness